kids don't know their history teacher shocked at lack of knowledge. Usually on this channel I go over the topic of UFOs, the paranormal, biblical prophecy, strange mysteries, but also hidden histories. Usually when I talk about this subject, it pertains to the hidden histories of the past, the ancient megalithic structures, the fact that there seems to be a history that is buried deep by those in the highest levels of power. Something about the past that is being obfuscated from us. Something that ties into events that occurred from ancient texts, the biblical narrative. However, there is a narrative that goes throughout time. History is being covered up, forgotten, edited away, and it seems that that is still going on in today's world. This being circulated on TikTok, a video in which a teacher is asking some very common questions about some very historical figures and events, and the response is stunning for all the wrong reasons. Let's take a look.
Helen Keller is the Nazi guy.
No!
What Nazi guy?
I don't know, he's like a terrorist.
Helen Keller is a Nazi terrorist that is a male. Is that what you're telling me right now?
Yeah, I'm gonna write Helen Keller up here.
Yeah. Right?
No.
Are you thinking of Hitler?
Who's Hitler? Who's Hitler?
Who is Hitler?
Helen Keller was the blind and deaf person who was fake. She didn't exist, but everyone believes she was deaf and blind.
What? She was fake?
Yeah, she was deaf and blind.
What Pearl Harbor was, if I say Pearl Harbor.
Is that a bridge?
Dude. Do you know what D-Day is?
Who?
D-Day.
A person? A rapper?
Are you being...
Wait. Helen Keller is the Nazi guy.
No!
It leaves you speechless. Helen Keller being confused for Hitler? Pearl Harbor being confused for a bridge? D-Day, believed to be a rapper. That is the education system that America is experiencing, the children of America are learning from. I believe this is in part the fault of Common Core, not teaching proper history, and we are suffering as a result of it. I'm in no way a master of history, but there are certain events, people, places, times that are of such historical significance that it is a detriment to society to not know your history, not learn from history. As Winston Churchill put it, those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And I believe in part that is why we see what we see going on in America right now. Over this past summer, the efforts of those who want to erase history, edit things out, tear down statues. If you're not learning from that, good or bad, the mistakes that were made, there is no hope of ever changing it, because those in the future will not know the mistakes and they're doomed to repeat it. This coming from the New York Post from 2017, and it's just as relevant today. Why schools have stopped teaching American history. Don't know much about history, goes the famous song. It's an apt motto for the Common Core's elementary school curriculum, and it's becoming a serious problem. In 2014, a report by the National Assessment of Education Progress showed that an abysmal 18% of American high school kids were proficient in U.S. history, when colleges such as Stanford declined to require Western civilization classes, or high schools to propose changing their curriculum so that history is taught only from 1877 onward. This happened in North Carolina. It's merely a blip in our news cycle. So they're changing the curriculum from only teach history from 1877 onward. Now it seems that they're not even teaching history as far back as 50, 60 years ago. A 2012 story in Perspectives on History magazine, the University of North Carolina, Professor Bruce Van Slyterite found that 88% of elementary school teachers consider teaching history a low priority. The reasons are varied. Van Slyterite found that teachers didn't focus on history because students aren't tested on it at the state level. Why teach something you can't test? Well, I'll tell you what the ultimate test of history is. The future. A teacher I spoke with in Brooklyn confirmed this. She said, quote, all the pressure in lower grades is in math and English language arts because of the state exams and the weight that they carry. She teaches 4th grade and says that the age is the first time. That age is the first time students are taught about explorers. 4th grade, the first time they're taught about explorers, American settlers, and the American Revolution, and so on. But why so late? Van Sledwright also found that teachers just didn't know enough about history to teach it. He wrote that there was some holiday curriculum as holiday instructions, but that was it. Arthur, a father in Brooklyn whose kids are in 1st and 2nd grade at what's considered an excellent public school, says that the only kind of history lessons he's seen, and even that's been thin, his 2nd grade daughter knows George Washington was the first president, but did not know why Abraham Lincoln was famous. As the parents of a 1st grader, I've also seen the, quote, holiday curriculum in short supply. 1st grade might seem young, but it's my daughter's 3rd year in the New York City public school system after pre-K and kindergarten. She goes to one of the finest public schools in the city, yet knows about George Washington exclusively from the soundtrack of the Broadway hit Hamilton. She wouldn't be able to tell you who discovered America. So far, she has encountered no mention of any historical figures except for Martin Luther King Jr. This isn't a knock on King, obviously. He's a hero in our house. But he can't be the sum total historical figures our kids learn about, even in early elementary school. For one thing, how do we tell King's story without telling the story of the Founding Fathers, the Constitution, or of Abraham Lincoln? King's protests were effective because they were grounded in the idea that America was supposed to be something specific and that the Constitution said so, and that we weren't living up to those ideals. The Brooklyn teacher I spoke with says instructors balk when it comes to history. They don't want to offend anyone. The more vocal and involved the parents are, the more likely the teacher will feel uncomfortable to teach certain things or say something that might create a problem. So, why deal with something that's so uncomfortable? No point to it, right? Just edit it away. Just forget about it. This is the mind of the teachers who are teaching our future leaders of the country. How will they ever learn? How will they deal with things that are uncomfortable if they aren't put in front of their faces at a young age when they're developing? This is when they should start developing these skills on how to deal with uncomfortable situations, life's pressures, injustice, inequalities. This is what leads to revolutions and changes for the best in the country. Not physical war revolutions, but revolutions of the mind, of the spirit, of the soul, of the country, the heart of a country. She cited issues around Thanksgiving, like teaching the story of pilgrims and the Native Americans breaking bread together, as one of the teachers might sideline for fears of parents complaining. Instead of addressing sticky subject, we skip them altogether. Is that what America did? When they wanted to leave Britain, did they say, oh, it's too tough, it's too uncomfortable to fight against the king? We'll just ignore it. We'll just go on with our lives and be under the rule of the king, this unjust system, and we'll just forget about the whole thing. No, of course not. We fought for our independence, for what we believed was right. As colleges around the country see protests to remove Thomas Jefferson statues from their campuses, it's becoming the norm to erase the parts of history that we find uncomfortable. It's not difficult to teach children that the Pilgrims or Thomas Jefferson were imperfect. They were imperfect people, yet still responsible for so much that is good in America. Jay Leno used to do a segment called Jaywalking, where he'd go up to random people in the street, ask them questions, and these weren't really tough, hard questions of history. They were very basic questions. For instance, he'd ask who the current vice president was, how many stars were on the American flag, and adults had no idea. This is the state of the education system. It seems like an attempt to dumb us down, a determined attempt, a successful attempt, I'd say, to dumb America down, to not keep us at the top of the food chain, not keep us at the country to be most admired, to be looked upon as having the closest form of a system, a republic, a democracy that the world has ever known, but to reduce us reduce us down from the greatness that we once were. And I fear it seems to be having an effect, especially watching a video like this from this teacher. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, as this is a very important issue. This is part of the hidden history that I talk about, but it's current hidden history. It's history that's currently being hidden in front of our very eyes. If this is the case, if they're hiding history and editing it out now, how much more so have they done in the past? The distant past. With the megalithic structures, the elongated skulls we find in Peru, things that defy explanation as we know it, technologies that they shouldn't have had. Is it so hard to believe that that has also been hidden from us? If we see it happening right before our very eyes. Tune in on Sundays as we explore all these topics. UFO phenomenon, the biblical prophecy, paranormal, strange histories, and yes, of course, hidden histories. Thank you for watching.
Helen Keller is the Nazi guy.
No!
What Nazi guy?
I don't know, he's like a terrorist.
Helen Keller is a Nazi terrorist that is a male. Is that what you're telling me right now?
I'm gonna write Helen Keller up here.
Yeah. Right?
No.
Are you thinking of Hitler?
Who's Hitler? Who's Hitler?
Who is Hitler?
Helen Keller was the blind and deaf person who was fake. She didn't exist, but everyone believes she was deaf and blind.
What? She was fake?
Yeah, she was deaf and blind.
What Pearl Harbor was, if I say Pearl Harbor.
Is that a bridge? Dude.
Do you know what D-Day is?
Who?
D-Day.
In person? A rapper?
Are you being...
Wait. Helen Keller is the Nazi guy.
No!